Hi, everyone. My name is Karen Hewitt, and today we're going to talk about leadership. More importantly, I'm going to challenge your thinking a little bit on leadership. But to start it off, I want to tell you a quote by John C. Maxwell. A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. Why this is so important is as a culture, we have developed this thing about servant leadership. How to be a servant leader, why a servant leader is so good. I, for one, used to be like, I'm a servant leader. Oh my gosh, I'm so good. I'm a servant leader. And I started to realize that maybe, just maybe, a servant leader is not the end result we're looking for. So today we're going to talk about that. I don't have a PowerPoint, so there's no screenshots to be taken. However, I will recommend that you have a pen and paper because I want you to take some notes. And I may have some questions for you to ponder over. So if a leader is one that knows the way, shows the way, and goes the way, how come that is so different with servant leadership? Well, it's not what it was intended to be. In fact, when the term servant leadership was first coined, there was this whole theory about a leader that works from the back of the room, a leader that serves their team, a leader that helps propel their team to greatness. But that has gone by the wayside. And I'm here today to discuss that with you. So it has been my findings and my observations that those that you would categorize as servant leaders normally fall into one of two buckets. Let's go over these two buckets, and I want you to really think about some of these points and wonder, does either one of these fit you? Or do you know someone that fits these buckets? Bucket number one is a servant leader that really wants their team to excel. So much so that they end up picking up the slack. They will do tasks that have been missed. They will complete projects. They don't tend to give as much feedback as some other leaders will, because they're more bothered about making sure the well-being of their team is in place, that they don't feel put upon, and that everything is achieved. Some of these examples would be, you have a team project where you're leading, and part of the project involves, let's say, social media. And you have a committee on your team for that. But maybe, just maybe, they're not doing everything they should. And instead of speaking to them and finding out what's going on, you just pick up the slack. Oh, I need help doing this. Oh, no worries, I can help you with that. How many times have you volunteered to help someone on your team with a project adding to your own workload? And at the end of the day, you say, it's okay. I'm a servant leader. I'm here to serve my team. Option two. This is the one where you really, I hope you don't see yourselves in this role, but you may see other people. They will proclaim their servant leadership and tell you about everything that they're doing. They'll give you a laundry list of items just to showcase how busy they are, how much they're being impacted, and how much they're impacting others. They'll also at the ready have a list of 10, 15 people that they are serving. There is no humility. It has almost become a sign of martyrdom. They're a servant leader because that's what they need to be. No one can get by without them. They are a necessity. If they weren't there, things wouldn't happen. If I wasn't at this meeting, it wouldn't happen. If I didn't take over the social media, it wouldn't happen. But that's okay. It's because I'm a servant leader. Now, there are pros and cons to both of these. Things get done, things are seen. But why I'm going to challenge you is, let's think past servant leadership. Let's think of a new type of leadership that we should be embracing, that is the best of multiple worlds and the best type of leadership you can have. So let's take type one. Are you a type one servant leader? Like, it's okay. That was me. And what I found it led to, for me personally, was a lot of overwhelm, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of putting other things aside, because if I didn't get things done, they wouldn't get done. And it wasn't for me to take the credit, but to make sure my team was successful. My family life suffered, my work life suffered, because I was continually taking on more and more. There is one thing that actually exemplifies these kind of leaders. And if you ask this question and you get this answer, there is a good gesture that they are this type of servant leader. If you ask them to do something and their first response is, okay, I can help you with that. Or, yeah, I'm sure I can fit it in somehow. You're dealing with a leader that may be dealing with overwhelm. And unfortunately, this can lead to a lot of burnout, especially in a volunteer organization. How many times have you found yourself on 15 committees, helping with 7 different Toastmasters meetings, and dealing with multiple emails that maybe, just maybe, were not your responsibility? I'm going to give you a quote from Oprah Winfrey. No is a complete sentence. And so far, I've told you in the first 5 minutes, I've told you a lot of things that you shouldn't be doing. I've given you a lot of the negatives to servant leadership. A servant leader does think selflessly, and they do make sure things are done, and they are a very supportive, loving role. However, this is the challenge. Are you truly supporting someone when you do the work for them? When you pick up the slack? When you make sure everything's done? Or are you just allowing them to stay at their same point? The second type of servant leader is not really a servant leader, but they will tell everyone they are. They will give you all that information. I'm a servant leader. Look at me. I'm so good. I'm fabulous. And everything is done to shine a light on them. It's not about the team. It's not about the work. It's, well, they couldn't have done it if it wasn't for me and I wasn't being the servant leader. And they have their fingers in everything. This is also very destructive. I have discovered a train of thought that I've been collaborating with many other leaders across different organizations. And I truly want to encourage this thought process. And that is of an empathy leader rather than a servant leader. What's the difference? Well, from all my discussions, an empathy leader is what we have been aiming for in the first place. An empathy leader is really what a servant leader was intended to be, but somehow we've skewed and twisted the meaning and the thought process. An empathy leader does not take over roles. However, what they do is they work along the lines of a project manager. Wait, I know. Project managers, so not caring, so not teamwork. It's just checks and balances, checks and balances, checks and balances. This is where it comes in. Empathy leaders take into consideration what the goals are of their team members. They listen and discuss what not only the goals for a project, but long-term goals. Have you ever been put in a situation in a project where it's right up your alley and everything's perfect and you could do it in your sleep and no problem? Oh, just check. That was the wrong project for you. Because here we're about growth. Have you ever been in a project where it's so overwhelming and it has nothing to do with anything you've ever intended, that you can never see yourself being in that situation? Why would you even need this skill? Then that's the wrong project for you too. The right projects for your teams are ones that help them step out of their comfort zone, but guide them along the way to what they want to do, their long-term goals. So let's give you some examples. I mean, because this is kind of confusing. I'm going to use an imaginary person on my team. Let's call her Jennifer. Jennifer has joined Toastmasters to learn and to grow. She works in an organization and knows that she needs to gain supervisory roles. Because, she's fresh out of college. She's really good at what she does, but she needs to build up in the business. She may be really good at, let's say, graphic design. So when she comes onto your project, the first thing you do is oh my gosh, she is so good at graphic design. Oh, wonderful. You're going to assign her that graphic design role because that is her skill. That is her magic mark. But what she really wants is to build leadership skills. That is creating a great team. That is building a committee based on strengths. But it's not being a leader with empathy. A leader with empathy, what you would do is you go, okay, this is where your skill set is. So I know you're strong here, but this is what you want to do. How can we break that project down so that way it needs 2 or 3 people to work on it? Still really in their wheelhouse, yet have them develop a skill set. Well, one way is to turn it into a social media project. Now, not only does that project manager have to handle the graphic design, the social media text, the calls to action, and the analytics. Wait, I just used a whole bunch of things that were not in Jennifer's wheelhouse. But she wants to learn how to grow a team. As an empathy leader, you will help work with her to build that team up, to build that committee, someone who is great at social media, someone who's great at analytics, and also someone who knows graphic design. That is not Jennifer. By placing her in charge of this committee as a chair, you are building her leadership skills, something she wants to build, while keeping her in a comfort zone. So at the same time you are stretching, you are also enforcing what she knows. See how sneaky I am? I have just taken one role and changed it into a leadership role to allow somebody else to shine. Now, as an empathy leader, what I'm going to be doing with Jennifer throughout this time is having regular check-ins with her. To not only work on the leadership building skills, but at the same time, as a project manager, checking on their work. I'm not going to be all over it on every single one of her calls saying, hey, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you do this? Oh, someone's not doing your, no, I'll take care of your analytics. I'll do that for you. You don't take on any of the roles. So when someone comes to you and says, Jennifer comes and says, my analytics person just isn't looking at analytics. I don't know what to do. You take that opportunity to coach them. Okay, when was the last time you heard from them? Oh, I sent them an email asking where the analytics were 3 days ago and they haven't responded. You called them just to see if they're okay. No, why would I do that? See, this is where the empathy comes in. Life happens. And if we're not aware of everything that goes on in life, if we're not aware of everything that's happening, how can we best serve our team to pull them forward? So she calls up the person in charge of analytics and says, hey, how you doing? Is everything okay? And they say, I know, my computer died. I've got a new one coming this afternoon. I've hated not having my computer. It's been crazy. Well, guess what? Problem averted, And if they turn and say, this is just not what I'm not very good at this. I can't do this. You encourage them. And then you help them build back up. If that person says, I need to step down and go away because something else is happening in my life, respect where they're at. And then you help Jennifer find a new candidate for that role, not you taking over. I hope I'm making sense so far. You see, a servant leader, as we've since made this, since changed the meaning of servant leader, they would have automatically jumped into the analytics role, taken care of everything, made sure it was done, handled it all. And at the end of the day, what's that taught Jennifer? It's taught her that if she can't do something, someone else will do it for her. Which she's got your back, you've got her back. You're supportive. You're helping her. But you're not growing her. We need to start taking the best elements of project management, structured leadership, and servant leadership, all combining it with an emotional connection in order to help our people grow the most, to help our teams develop skill sets that they didn't know they had or didn't know they needed. And then we also have to give the credit where it's due. Another example of building an empathic leader is mimic what you want to see from them. Yes, I said mimic, as in be what they want, because people learn by seeing. So when they're coming to you with problems, don't just solve the problem. Oh my gosh, we are so good at it. We are exceptional. Hey, I got a problem. I can't find this report. Well, here it is. Here's the link. Just put a little check mark on your paper if you've done that. Have you just given the solution to somebody and not shown them how? What you've just done is you've created a relationship where whenever they have a question, they're going to come straight back and ask you instead of finding it for themselves. And you've created a codependency. That is what a servant leader would do. They would make sure that their team has all the tools, but they wouldn't be showing them where to find the tools. And we really need to get good at that. We really need to get good at giving skills and tactics rather than answers. One great example, if they come to you with a problem, I know for me, it is so easy to go, well, what if we do this? How about this for a solution? How about this for a fix? Let's ask them. Okay, I understand that problem. What solution do you see? What do you think will fix this problem? So that's what's happening. What do you want to happen? Start asking questions for them to develop that deductive reasoning for leadership. Half the time, we find that leaders are not being created because we're not giving them the opportunity to lead. We're not giving them that strength because we're too busy serving the organization and serving the teams to actually grow them. So let's have a fun exercise. This is just a quick one. On your piece of paper, draw a column right in the middle. On one side, I want you to write servant leadership. And on the other side, I want you to write empathic leadership. On this, what I want you to think about is think about all the opportunities that you've had to lead in the last 6 months. What things have you done and where would you place them? Would you place them under a servant leader where you have, yes, you've helped your team. Yes, you've given them resources. Yes, you've solved their problems. Yes, you've done the work for them where it's been needed. And on the other side, where will you have been an empathic leader, which has helped to channel and push a team member into something that will help them grow while giving them the opportunity to utilize you as a sounding board to come up with their own leadership directions, all while helping direct them to success. It is a tricky balance. Now, obviously, I'm going to give you a chance to pause the video, so stop. All right, if you didn't pause the video and you're going to do this homework later, okay, I understand. But if you did pause it, you now have a list. On that list, what I want you to look at on the servant leadership is how could you have taken the action that you did and helped to turn it around to increase the leadership capability of your team? We need to be in the business of creating leaders, not people checking off boxes. And the reason I say that is when we give everyone the solutions and when we give everyone the how-tos and the where-tos and the whys, and we give them all the answers served up on a beautiful silver plate, they're not growing from it. Their leadership skill isn't developing. Their ask questions skills is developing because they know if they ask, they get the solution. But that deductive reasoning that weighing the pros and cons, that making, informed decisions is not occurring for them. So you've done servant leadership items, because you have turned it into something more powerful to grow the next leader. Okay, I'll give you a minute, so go ahead. Pause the video. Again, if you didn't pause it, okay. It's not like I can come there and yell at you. But if you did, you're starting to see some tools that you can use in order to help your teams. So let's go over those tools, because I'm having you brainstorm a little bit, think a little bit, come up with some of your own ideas. We mentioned that having a conversation and discussing with them, well, what would you like to see? How would this work if it was going the right way for you? What skills do you want to develop? You can even ask them things. So where do you think you would find that information? Okay, let's go look. Another great one, and this is, this one's kind of two-sided, because this is also a great response. If you don't know the answer to a question, that's a great question. Let's go find out. Where do you think we should go to find that out? By empowering them to make those discoveries, you're actually building the next great leadership group. You're actually helping them become more than what they entered your project in. Another tool is holding them responsible. Now, this one is a little bit more difficult to do, and I'm going to be honest, it's been a challenge for me sometimes, because we want the best for people we're working with. We want them to feel happy and secure and not have confrontation. Oh my gosh, if you hate confrontation, but what it is holding them accountable. If you have a deadline, hold them to that deadline. I'm sorry, I didn't get the deadline done. Okay, what was the issue with getting the deadline done? Okay, how have you resolved that issue? What tools do you need to help that issue dissipate? Okay, ask questions to make sure they're not just saying, well, I just didn't get around to it. And if they say, well, I just didn't get around to it, well, I understand life can get busy. However, we are on a deadline for a reason. When do you think the next reasonable deadline should be? What tools do you need to make sure that that deadline takes place? Do you need to gain more people for your team? Do you need more help understanding the project? Because, like I said earlier, a servant leader in that first bucket, what their instinct to do is, oh my gosh, it's not done. Okay, I'll jump in and I'll help you. I'm here to help. It's my job to serve. How many times have we said that? It's my job to serve. I even realized it's in my email signature, yours in service. And I am in service of my fellow Toastmaster. But I'm in service in helping them grow. Not in waiting hand and foot to help them not get any growth or any learning from the situation. Another thing is giving honest feedback. This is a sticking point for me. How often, and I've heard it in evaluations, they whitewash the evaluation, or it's a little sugary, it's a little sweet. They don't actually talk about things that could be improved. We need to do that as a leader as well. We need to constantly try and find ways to improve. You can be speaking with the best public speaker or project manager in the world, and there'd still be something to find in which they can improve upon. It may be more challenging to find it, but we have to give that feedback and we have to help them grow. Same with your team members. When they come to you for feedback, be honest and fair. I love to use the sandwich technique when I'm talking with teams. This is what we did great. This is what we need to work on. And this is where I change it up a little bit, because normally it's great, work, great. Great, work on. And this is the results you expect or you will see when you work on it. I'm going to give you an example of a piece of feedback I gave somebody. I explained that they were extremely motivational, encouraging, positive, great communicator with their team. The one thing I challenge them to work on is going forward, any leadership roles, is to find a successor and help groom them and prepare them to take over the role the year after. This is the case in any form of work, life, or Toastmasters. If you have a leadership role, let's say you're the club president, congratulations and thank you for your service. And thank you for working hard to make your club a special place. Start working with the person to be the club president the year after. It shortens their learning time and helps propel the club to great growth. Because how scared did you feel on that first day when you took over the role for the first time and you didn't know what you were doing and you were a little unsure, well, what's expected of me? How am I supposed to do this? When you take the time to help somebody grow before the role is even theirs, you remove that anxiety. Half the time as servant leaders, we bring people in and then we hold their hand for the first 6 months of a role. I'm not saying being there to support them is a bad thing, but what if we took that 6 months from after they began the role to 6 months before the role, where they shadowed, where they saw what you did, they learned from what you did, they grew with you, and when it came their time to shine as the president, they knew exactly what they were doing. They felt confident, empowered, and like they could achieve anything. By taking that little change and becoming an empathic leader and caring about the growth of others and putting them in situations to help push them to grow, you're developing a stronger leadership team. And if that continues, can you imagine if that continues year after year, leaders stepping into roles, already feeling confident, already feeling secure in what they're doing and getting ready to really roll. You know what happens? They start coming up with new ideas. They have more time to be creative. Whereas before, maybe they weren't being so creative. Maybe they were a little stuck. Maybe they were too busy. Like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? How do I adjourn a meeting? How do I do this? But instead, you've given them that freedom and that flexibility to really shine and grow in the role. And that is something that we can be giving to everyone. So rather than holding someone's hand after they have a role, let's start doing it before, because then we'll extend to great growth. Another thing that we often see is that burnout. I mentioned it earlier. If you have felt burnout at anything at work, life, volunteer organizations, Toastmasters, you are not alone. What tends to happen is we get so good at something that everyone comes to us for that one thing. And when everyone comes to us for that one thing, you know, it's easier. Let's just do it and take care of it instead of teaching someone else. That is a little bit of a curse on servant leaders. Instead of taking the time to teach someone else how to do that particular item, it's quicker, it's faster, it's more efficient if we do it ourselves. If you've ever felt that, go ahead, a little check mark for yourself. Yes, it is quicker to just do it yourself. But I also want to tell you this, and this is gonna sting a little bit, okay? It's also selfish. We should be allowing other people to shine and to learn new skills and to grow. And when you take that time, yes, it may take you 6 hours longer than the 1 hour it was going to take you in the first place. And now there's 2 of you that can do it. And when there's 2 of you, and that means next year it's 30 minutes. But what if both of you then taught someone else how to do it? That's 4, it's 15 minutes worth of work. We have a huge impact on the entire organization. It becomes more about who can I help? Who can I teach? Who can I help grow? Than, oh crap, I have to do all this work myself again. So I've been telling you to make little check marks. This should be maybe 3 or 4 of them. I want to tell you this. If you have spent your time dedicating yourself to be a servant leader, I'm proud of you. You've truly put others first. You've really wanted to help people be successful. Your heart was in the right place and you had some amazing intentions, and congratulations. Now I'm going to challenge you. Be more than a servant leader. Be a leader that gives to others and helps them grow by saying no sometimes, by not taking things on, by taking the time to teach rather than to do. Yes, I know it's double the time, but it is worth it. And become an empathic leader instead. If you find it's a question you're asked often, you know what you can do? We have this wonderful thing called YouTube. Go ahead, make a 5-minute video. This is how you do this. Hey, can you do this? Because I've not done this before. Hey, no problem. Here's a video on how to do it. Done. You've done it once. You are giving resources. You are not the reason everyone does everything. You are not the person that makes sure everything doesn't fall down. You are not the person that holds everyone up and does everyone's work for them. You are not that person that is tired at the end of the day. You are someone who is opening people's minds and their hearts and their brains to bigger and better opportunities than they had before. Because who knows? Maybe that person that you push and that you challenge as an empathic leader rather than a servant leader will be the next big leader that you have. So I'm going to give you those thoughts. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is Karen@blossomtosuccess.com. That's BLOSSOMTOSUCCESS.com. And we'll discuss this. My whole goal today was to make you have a different think, a new thought process. And let's stop being servant leaders. Instead, let's be leaders that help other leaders grow. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the conference.